Hey guys, welcome in. It's just taken a while for that stream to kick in this afternoon. That to be running in a few minutes. So what we've got in at the minute is, this is one order. So we have a PS5 controller they've sent in, which we actually no longer work on. Unfortunately, they just cost too much in our time to repair. It's got a stick drift. So this one's been sent in, but it'll just be sent back. The cost of us doing the sticks is literally the cost of a new controller. But I just thought it's a nice controller for kind of show off. But yeah, we don't work on any controllers anymore, unfortunately. And then we have in, if we look at the note, we've got the PS5 controller stick drift, which we don't work on. We've then got a white Game Boy Advanced, so that's going to be, I presume, this one. No signs of life, basically completely dead. And then we've got a yellow Pikachu, so I'm going to guess, yeah, this one's the yellow Pikachu edition. Flicks on but turns off, and that's it. So basically both of them are no power. They shouldn't be too hard to fix. I don't know which one to start with. If anyone's got a preference on which one they want to see first, just let me know. But we got an original Pikachu there. And then let's just see. Yeah, they're both originals. This is an original white. Nothing else in there. So these are the two we're going to be working on. Any preference to which one we start with? And then for either, we'll need to test. This for a start has got what looks like all battery rot in here. So this is going to be hopefully just rotting on the battery springs. We're going to need new battery springs for a start, that's for sure, in this one. And that's because these have been left in, so that's why you don't leave batteries inside the consoles. So that's going to be obviously one of the issues, but we'll still try and power it up with fresh batteries. And then the SP will give a go at starting as well. So let's just see where we get first with, let's say, this GBA. See if there's any signs of life at all. No, so totally nothing, no power light, no flicker. So it's going to be starting with obviously the battery springs for that one. For the SP, let's just give this a go with a battery. We use the original. And yeah, on that one we get, if we look here at the light, see it flash on red and off. So let's just try another battery first. So for the SP, let's just try one of our batteries, see if it's as simple as the battery being flat to start with. Yep, so that one's booting. So we can turn on and off. And you can see issue number one is the old battery. So that's out the way. It could also just be flat and needs charging and the charge port's broken. That's the other common thing. So let's just see if we get audio out of this one, because this doesn't look too bad. So we might start with the SP, because it's going to be potentially simpler. Let's put in Pokemon Blue, turn on, volume up, yep, so we've got that loading. Probably easier to see on this one, to be honest, and then zoomed in maybe. Oh no, let's stay zoomed out. So you can see that's loading. And then obviously file data destroyed. This has just been test game, so we're not worried about that. That's not normal. So that shouldn't be, I don't believe, like that, unless this is the game. If not, we've got video RAM issue. So let's just take that out. Try another game. And I can also try another, probably easier to try another Game Boy in case this is corrupt on that, I can't remember. So this one looks okay. Sound's working on the side. Check the speaker. Oh, I'm going to need an adapter. Just need an adapter and a charge lead to test this. So we've got the charge lead. Let's see if charge works. And then I'm going to have to try and find a headphone jack. I don't even have one. So, maybe that's working. Yeah, so the charge is working as well. Yeah, sound went off. I mute it sometimes. I just press a button up here and mute it when I'm chatting off stream. So it wasn't the stream thing. I just I muted it. So the SP one looks like it is just an issue with the customer's battery. So it might even be as simple as, yeah, so I think their battery is just kaput. So let's just give them one of our batteries anyway. And then let's just test the Pokemon game in another Game Boy. Let's see if this is corrupt or whether it's actually the game or the console. Because if the console's bad, we then need to obviously open it up and look inside. Afternoon everybody joining in. Just let me know if there's any issues with the stream. We've had I think it's all working now for the last few days without problems. Let's just see if this one works. So we were getting corrupt graphics, which I think might just be this game. Hopefully it is. Yeah, so it's just this copy of Pokemon. I think this is one we did a failed FRAM mod on, so it's just corrupt. Yeah, so let's get another Pokemon game just to be sure that the customer's SP is fully working, and then we'll probably just open it up and service it as well, clean all the contacts and maybe replace fuses and things like that just to be sure, and obviously clean this cartridge port. But this one looks like it's just going to be a nice, super simple battery swap and then a basic service of just cleaning it up. For the battery charge, yeah, we've got a USB charger with a monitor on that tells you how much current's being pulled. so we can see when we plug in the charge that the cable's pulling a couple of 100 milliamps, so we know it's going into the battery. And then failing that, you can also measure the battery voltage going up. So everything seems to be nicely working. I'm not sure whether this one's got a fresh battery and this is just a test one, but we'll soon find out. Turn off. I'll show you that battery charge now, which is, to be honest, quite difficult to check with it closed up, because you need to monitor these pins for charge. So you could rest it in just about like that, unplug, plug in, and we can see the charge lights on. And now if we get a multimeter, and then try to get this all on for you. So there's the voltage, and if we can get down with these, we're going to need, I don't think we're going to get down there, we might have to open it. I think I've got one pointy tip we could use to get down there. And then we're going to use the, hopefully the charge lead as ground. And this, oh, maybe not. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get in there. What else could we do? I mean, we can open it up anyway. We're going to open it up to service it, so we'll open it up and then I'll show you how you check the charge on the battery anyway. Morning from the States. Is that PA, Pennsylvania, is that? We'll need them battery springs. Right, so SP is basically working, but let's just give it a service anyway. So we have on these, I think all the back are tri-wing on the originals, bad loops, yeah, so all the back screws are tri-wings. And you'll notice the one over the centre of the game slot is the one that's different, which is slightly shorter. We'll have to bring the pug in a bit, he's in the other room. And then the one inside the battery compartment is also smaller, so the two smaller ones are for battery compartment. Ah yeah, you're near Retro 6, similar location. I think there's quite a lot of retro around that area as well. It seems like quite a popular place for retro. So when you take the back off these, just lift up. These triggers have got little bars in that'll want to spring out. And if you flip them over, they've stayed in place. So we've got these bars and these springs that if you keep it nice, it won't fall out, otherwise you have to put it back in. And then in here we have the power switch here and the volume slider here. And then this detects when the game's inserted, so it knows the difference between a GBO game and a GBA game. So we looked at this little black latch here. When a GBO game goes in, you see that little black lever pressing in. That's what basically tells it it's a GBO game. When you put a GBA game in, you'll notice they have this cutout for that reason, so that when you insert, that lever doesn't get pressed in. So if it doesn't have that lever down It thinks it's a GBA game, basically. That's how that works. I don't know why this chatbot's telling everybody off as well for long messages that are like 5 words long, even though I disabled that as well. I didn't look into that yesterday. So to service this, we don't need to do much because it's fully working, but we'll service the contact pads, the power switch, and this slide is an integrated one, so the volume slide is working. We'll just give that a very basic spray with IPA and just rub up and down to soak inside. We don't tend to take the volume pots apart unless there's a problem, because you can do more damage taking them apart than cleaning them if there's no issue. But the power switch will lift up, so we'll start with that in a second. And let's just get it out the case so we don't do any damage. We don't want to melt this at all. Ah yeah, you're definitely not wrong about the chatbot. Right, so with them out, we just lift this out, and then under here you'll have the LCD connector, all your buttons. So these are probably all going to fall out, so sometimes you're just better tipping everything out than trying to keep everything in. And just put it all to one side. Speaker just lifts out. And then we've got the button still stuck on the rubber pads. And we have all these rubber pads. So these rubber pads, these are just purely physical. There's no contact in these. It's these buttons here that we want to clean. And again, these are ones where we don't tend to remove them unless we're going to replace them. So if they're not faulty, we just IPA them, but you can completely remove these. We do a kit where you can replace these buttons for brand new, but unless the customer pays for that or wants that, then obviously we don't need to do that in this case. So again, for these, we can sometimes peel off the metal spring on these as well to get inside. But what you can do is just soak the board from either side, and this will help just loosen any dirt if it gets inside and under. But because these are sealed and they're good condition, they're not really going to be in bad condition, so it's just a quick clean up of that to free it up. And then what we will do as well is, one of the common faults on this is the fuses blowing. So we have a fuse F2 here, and we also have, I always forget where the other one is, fuse F1 here. So the F1, I think, if I remember rightly, is for the charge. So this is the one that will blow if you put a battery in and it picks up a bit too much charge. So we'll swap this out, and this is the fuse to the system. So these can die. So it's pretty much standard. We'll replace them fuses as well. So for the fuses, we sell these if you want to do it yourself as well. GU0018 on the website, resettable fuses. You get 2 in a pack, so it's perfect for the SP. And we just replace these. So couldn't be any easier. Just get the iron, swipe off the old one, and then you can solder in the new one, or you can hot air the new one down, whichever you prefer. I'll just solder this one in. So these are tiny, you don't want to lose them. But just little resettable fuses. So basically these go over current. They'll just reset themselves once the short's gone or the problem's gone. They'll just naturally reset themselves. Just focus this in a little bit. It's better, nice and sharp. And then for this now, to put them back on, if we rotate the board around, what I like to do to put them back on is just make sure the pads have both got solder. So fresh solder like that. And then with tweezers, just get the fuse, go in from the side so you're warming both pads, and then let go, and it'll just pull into place. It wouldn't play GBO games without the Switch. No, it'd think it's a GBA game and fail. And it would also, I'd have to check the schematic on the GBA-SP, but you might also send the wrong voltage into GBA games. You'd send 5 volts and kill GBA games if the Switch didn't work. Well, I'll say if the Switch didn't work, if the Switch accidentally got pressed down. So if you press the Switch down, it's also going to send voltages here. 5 volts into the cartridge instead of 3.3. So if we were to say this spring stuck and got stuck down here, activated, and then you put a GBA game in, you're likely going to break the GBA game unless it's tolerant to 5 volts. Yeah, these are the it's nice to see the original shells. So obviously these are ones that are heavily copied now on AliExpress. So this is one of the most common cloned shells, but obviously you can tell when you work with them. You can tell when they're genuine, and they've got the Pokemon Center label over them. So you can just tell once you've seen them. Basically, it's pretty obvious when you see them. These plastics tend to be more shiny and smooth than the clones because of age and, you know, natural wearing. But I guess if you've not seen an original, you might not know either. You could quite easily mistake a clone for a real one. Camera for zooming. I probably should do a video dedicated to the setup and have a pre-recorded one as well, because there's loads of people that ask about the setup. But we have this one. We've got a face cam here, which is an OBSBot something tiny, I think it's called. This is an OBSBot Tail 2, the zoom in one. That's the side camera can also like zoom in, and obviously I can pan and tilt with this remote. So this one's useful for kind of looking around and zooming in and out. And then above it was a Blackmagic Studio lens, but now I've changed it for the Blackmagic 6K Pocket, just so I can do focusing using an iPhone. So instead of using that big wire running down, that white wire just comes all the way down to here, and then I can flick a little switch that I've just got wrapped around here. Literally just flick a switch to zoom in and out on the camera. So I then go over to the overhead and flick the switch. I can zoom in and out, but it doesn't autofocus. So if I move that up, it doesn't focus. But a quick cheat for now is just to use an iPhone app called, I think it's Bluetooth Plus. And then I can basically just tap a focus button. So I have a phone under the desk at the minute just purely for tapping focus. So if I move that into, say, there and then tap focus, the camera focuses. So it's just a quick way of getting a kind of an autofocus on the Blackmagic that doesn't currently have autofocus. I can pay for the new Blackmagic 6K Pro, but it's like another £4 I think, just for the sake of not tapping that button on the iPhone. So for now, that's the setup. It's not that bad because we don't tend to change focus. Most of the stuff on the desk is literally flat to the desk like this, so when I zoom in it's fine, and then I can just digitally zoom a bit more. So this is digitally zoomed, whereas this is the maximum real optical zoom now, and then that's just a digital because it's so high quality we can zoom in even more and get like a nice, practically a microscope view. just wiped him off. There we go. I think he probably needs a bit of flux. He didn't want to flow into place nicely. That one's just a bit more awkward to do with the iron because this button right in the way. I don't want to melt that button. So that's that fuse done. That fuse done. And then I think the only thing left on this is cleaning the power switch really, because like I say, everything else is fully functional. I'll show you that battery charge thing in a minute as well. Yeah, for dropping bits as well, I tend to just use little boxes. So, like I've got an empty one here, so I'd normally, when I'm working on something, just get this box, open it up and put all the parts in. But when I'm working on just one thing, I just make sure I keep my desk tidy before I start, and I can normally work around that. Move that up a bit, there we go. Right, so we've got to do the switch now. Yeah, oh yeah, the setup's crazy money. Tens of thousands easily. Like the one camera above is not far off 10 grand. With the lens and the receiver and stuff like that. I've got tons of really good equipment. A lot of this isn't even like these ob spots, things I brought new. They're actually obviously a lot cheaper than my other setup, but it's just much easier to work with. Being able to just move, you know, this around, this is great for like depending on what you're working on, being able to give a better view when you're working. Using like the Blackmagic stuff to do that with pan and tilt is far more complicated for very little gain. So even though this is, you know, not as clear, you can see compared to the actual Blackmagic, the Blackmagic's way clearer, and that's not even in focus there. If I flip it over, see the level of detail there, you know, that's nice and sharp. And then you compare it to like the ob spot. The ob spot's good, but absolutely nowhere near the level of detail. The face camera's crazy sharp, but it's because it's luckily the perfect distance from my face. I tried it in a different location and it's very low res. It's got like a prime lens in with no zoom, so well, I think it's got a tiny zoom, but yeah, this face cam's crazy sharp for the money. It was only like £200 or £300 for that, so that's good. One meal for the rest of my life, mac and cheese. That's what I'd probably pick. Right, so for this power switch, what we have is a little slider here that slides around, and there's some metal contacts on the plastic, and when you're sliding them, you'll see when we open it, they make contact with just a metal strip at the bottom, and this gets very dirty. So what we do is well, everyone does it different, but I just warm the cage up, put solder on both sides, try not to knock these resistors off, they're really close. If we do, we'll have to find them or replace them. And then if you try to get, basically, you want to wedge your tweezer gently under there, like that, so you see it fits under. Come to the edge where we're warming up, warm up, and then just lift up. Like so. So I've just about lifted it up. So that's now not connected this side. You see it's loose, but you don't want to bend, otherwise you're going to bend the metal. And then you come to the other side, so get in a position that works for you for holding your soldering iron and trying to keep it away from the resistors. Warm that pad up and lift away. And that's a clean way to take off this metal piece here. And then this is where you want to be careful. When you take the switch off, you'll see underneath, if you rotate around, there's that little spring that's hooked in. And this, if this goes bye-bye or breaks, then you need a new switch. So you want to be very delicate with this plastic part, because it's basically just a little bit of metal sort of clamped in to the plastic. So we won't generally touch that. We'll do a very light sandpaper on this. So if I grab this, and then say on here, and again I emphasise very light, because you can rub this and take it clean off the plastic, and it's already working, so we don't want to go too aggressive. And we'll just gently push it on there and just rub very lightly, just giving it a light polish. And then I avoid, what some people do is they'll get cotton wool bud and drag on this. I won't do that, because again, you can see how delicate that, oops, see, flinging it away already. You can see how delicate the plastic is. The spring is hooked inside plastic arms, and if we put too much pressure on this, you can break these springs. So those, you can just get some IPA, and again, just be gentle on this one, basically, because there's, even though there's a replacement switch, we want to try and keep this original for the customer, with it being like a Pikachu edition as well. Oh yeah, I love curries. I literally had a Vindaloo, went to Tenerife last week, had a Vindaloo there, can't even tell it's hot. I used to eat Carolina Reapers at Christmas, like people would get me all the dares, like the hottest chocolate in the world and stuff like that, and I got to the point where I've eaten that much spicy stuff now that I can literally have a Vindaloo or say a Madras or a Korma, and I couldn't tell you which one was hotter. I've got no sense of it. I can tell there's heat in, but I can't tell you how much heat. It's just like a generic heat. That's all I can taste. But we absolutely love curries. That's where I put all my weight on. Was, I think I was like 10 stone 13 before I started eating curries, and then I went all the way up to like 18 stone, like 115 kg I think it is. Mostly from eating curries. That's kind of where I put all my weight on. These 3 pads here now, even though they don't look very clean, you've actually got one pad here, this pad here, that connects to this one here. You've got this centerpiece which connects to these two, and you've got this that connects to that. So what happens when you have the power switch here is, as you're sliding it up and down, there and there, you can see these contacts, so that there and there, basically short this pad to this pad when it's down, and then it moves along and shorts this pad to the center. So all you're doing is joining this pad to here, or this pad to here, based on the position. That's how the switch is working. And then to clean this, you just basically want to scrape it with anything. So scrape it with the tweezer tips. It's generally gunk that isn't that hard on, so you just want a bit of abrasion basically in there. And this reveals the tinned gold plated copper, I presume it is, or maybe nickel underneath. Then I'll get the melamine sponge in there and get some IPA, and then we can probably get, if I can find that cotton wool bud I've just used, or did I chuck it? I think I chucked it, and get another cotton wool bud and just go in there and really give it a firm clean. And that's how you want it to be, just nice and literally squeaky clean. That's why they say squeaky clean, because it actually squeaks. So that's the power switch all clean, which is obviously much nicer now. And then to put it back together, you just obviously get the switch, turn it the other way around, place it in delicately, and then this acts on, the reason this metal shield's on, is to keep the spring pushed down. So we need the metal spring on to keep this pushed down. So if we then take this, you want to try and place it over in the original position as much as you can. And because you've got solder blobs on the metal at the minute, it won't want to quite sit where you want it. But if you push down and heat up at the same time, you'll kind of find it just falls into position back where it was. And then same on the other side, you just want to push down and warm up at the same time. And that's now back on. So now we have the slider, And one other thing I like to do is I like to put a crease down the centre of this metal in order to physically push that plastic down firmer onto the contact. So what I do for that, the best tool I found is just the game bit driver that you open up Game Gears with. If you haven't got that, then just a blunt flat edge is what you want. Move the switch out of the way, push down on the other side and drag a line in. So you've got that little dent, move it back the other way and then do it from this side. And what you're doing there is you are making this metal, so let's see if I can get that angle. Let's just try and refocus there. There we go. We've put basically a crease in the metal so that it's got like a little divot in, and that you physically feel then is a lot firmer. So that's going to help with current flow. So that's the power switch all serviced. Suggested mods. Oh, I've got quite a lot of shots I've missed on actually. 1 second. Suggested mods for Xbox 1.6. I do an Aladdin mod chip with SirBIOS flashed on it for the BIOS. HDMI mod is optional. I probably want to make one myself. I can quite easily make a HDMI mod for that. The Project Stellars are quite crazy expensive and over featured for what I'd want. I just want cheaper HDMI. And then you can do the SSD upgrade. So you can have obviously an SSD, chuck lithium dashboard on it, Lithium X. New caps is probably what I'd say, power caps and super cap at minimum. And then the rest is optional. You can add whatever you like after that, basically. Cool. And then we've got this charge cable now, not charge cable, the headphone cable, so we can test before we assemble this if the headphone jack actually works as well. Oh, I've got a cut on my hand, that IPA's burning like crazy. Glad you're liking the stream, Jake. Yeah, everyone's getting yelled at today. The chatbot's just complaining at, I think, nearly every message for some reason. Probably because I turned it off, so now it's just complaining at everything instead of just long messages. It's now just literally complaining when anyone types a message over about bloody 5 words. Yeah, the power switch being soft, we've had that a lot of the time. It's one of the main problems with the Game Boys, so we often replace them completely. But in this case, we're trying to keep it all original, basically. The BIOS for the Xbox, SirBIOS, so an Aladdin, we sell them, I think. We might have stopped selling them. Let me just check 1 second. I think we do still sell them. Mods and services, Xbox original. Yeah, so on retro6.co.uk, mods and kits, Xbox original, and then we've got Aladdin mod chip. If you ordered that and left a note and said, please send SirBIOS, CER, and then BIOS, then obviously we could do that for you. We could put SirBIOS on there. Right, so this is hopefully ready to build. Let me just show you that battery charge thing. So if we, it'd be hard to kind of show you, to be honest, but we'll do it. You can put the charger in, get a battery, and hold on there. So now if you hold everything in place while it's open, like this, you've got the charger plugged in, you've got the battery held in position, and then you should get the orange light, which we do, so you can see an orange light there. And then what we'd want to do for proving this is charging, with a multimeter at least, we'd get the multimeter out, we'd get the probes, and what we want to try and do here is we need one of these on ground and one of them on BT+, so they're basically these two pads in here, but we need to find alternate points to probe them. So you've got a BT+ here, this little pad, and it's just a combination of having enough hands to do this and to show you. So what I'm going to do is probe on the BT+ here with the red. I'm going to probe on probably the BT-, which is just a ground point there, with the black, and then we're going to read on screen what the multimeter is saying. So now you know where I'm probing. We go to this one. I think I can zoom out. There we go. So there's the voltage. I'm going to try and hold that in there, and then probably going to grip this with a mouth, keep it in, and probe the other one there. And then let go. There we go. So you can see the voltage slowly climbing. So 3.55, 3.555, and then it's going to go to 3.56. So you're basically watching the battery actually charge at this stage. That's a way to prove how it's charging. You can also just look at the fact that the thing it's plugged into tells me how much current's passing through, but the best test is literally probing the battery and actually seeing the voltage of the battery increase. It's just a bit awkward on the SP because of, well, as you've just seen, holding the battery in place and trying to probe it and everything else. So this one's all good to go. Let's just test the audio. So we're going to have to probably build it back up anyway, I think, first, before we can do this. The original battery, this one, I think this is just flat or dead. The fact, in fact, it's bulging. There's a slight bulge on that, so this battery will be. They probably charged it and then it goes flat, and then they think the console's faulty because it dies so quick. So I think their original battery's dead. And we have, obviously, we have these remade by a battery factory. So the brand new made, every time we order them, these get remade with fresh cells, probably every 6 to 12 months. I'd say we run out of the SP batteries and make a new batch. And then this is probably the trickiest part for most people, getting this LCD connector in, because there's not much play on the cable. So I think we've got that in good. Yep, that's in fine. And then another thing to watch out for is that this light pipe doesn't fall out, because there's a little clear piece of plastic here for the lights that can sometimes fall out and you don't see it. And then you build it up fully and you've got to strip it all down again. That battery we're going to dispose of as well, because I don't know, you can't really see on camera, to be honest, because the way the light is in plastic, but that is not sitting flat. It's like got a bulge, and it's just very hard to kind of show off on camera. But yeah, that battery is bulging, so we'll just dispose of him. Yeah, the shell's original. You'll see it in a second when I've... let me just put these screws in. And then we'll flip it over and I'll just give it one last test. And then we've got a GBA to work on. And if we've got time, I've got some Game Boy Lights as well. So the Game Boy Pockets with the backlight. The customer wants the backlight converting from high voltage electroluminescent to low voltage LED and changing it to a vibrant green. So we're going to have to do a little bit of reverse engineering on that to figure out what the Game Boy Lite circuit does in terms of converting the high voltage to a low voltage and still using the original switch. Where's the cover gone? Wii mod chips, no, we don't do anything to do with the Wii at all. The GBA SP link port, you're probably going to be dealing with, I'd have to look at the schematic, but there's normally EM filters, so I think they're the other side of this board now, so I can't show you, but they'll be labelled EM normally on the board. They might not be on the SP. Let me just quickly pull the schematic up. It's usually the EM filters that die if you've changed the port and it's still bad. Let's pull this up. Yeah, so there's EM filters. Let's just move this over. And pull up the PC. So you can see on there's your extension port P3. We have then, oh sorry, this is the audio one, not the extension. Or, oh, is that the one you mean in the extension port that has the audio on? That's got the filters EM4, EM5 and EM6. And then if we have another port, got export one here, so this is probably the one you're on about, the actual, the connecting and trading between consoles. You got EM1 and EM2, which are they got triple filters in, so they're probably going to be 6-pin devices. I'd double check if they are dead. Basically, they've probably got a. If you measure continuity over pin 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, they should be connected, and I'm guessing they're not. Basically, that's the back on, or will be. I should probably test the audio before I finish building it, but I'm pretty confident that's going to work on the headphones. Just put 2 screws in and then we'll check if the audio works. That's good enough for now. Let's test this. So we should still have a working SP. There we do. Turn the audio up. Let's put Pokemon Yellow in. And then now if we get the extension port to 3.5mm, we can test if the headphones work. There we go. So that's headphones. And then that's internal speaker. So that's all working. And then luckily as well you can see the backlight is working. So at the right angle, see that glow there. You can see it's got the light working. Pressing the brightness button turns it on and off. Whereas on camera you can't really tell, from overhead. Can't so much see the light going on and off there at all. You can just about see. So that's everything working on this one. This will just get a quick outside clean as well. Try to get rid of some of this grime, and then this will be nice and clean. They'll have, obviously, this battery will give them as part of the service. They didn't actually pay correctly for this service, so they only paid a small amount, but considering I knew they were probably going to be quite easy fixes, I said I'd see if I could do them within the cheaper price anyway, just to help the customer out. So that's Pikachu one all done. And now next one is going to be this GBA, which we can already see. We took a quick look at the start in the back of this, and we've got clear battery leak all throughout this. So depending on how bad that is, we'll see where we get with this one. Bear in mind the customer hasn't really paid even for the diagnostics of this. They basically paid the base rate service for a working console, so we can't do too much work on this without confirming with the customer if they want to, you know, go ahead with further repairs, but they're usually quite simple. Just all depends on how far this rot has gone inside the console. And then very similar to the SP, if we lift this off, we've still got that screw still slightly in. Lift the back off, get the screw out, these side bumpers pull off, the triggers pull out and they kind of hook inside. And that's nice and fluffy. So let's see how far this damage has gone. So you can see there's the battery, that's literally all the electrolyte from the battery. So let's get this board out first, because we're going to have to get a little bit deeper to see how far this damage has gone. The power switch is definitely going to need replacing because that's blue. Well, I'd say definitely, almost definitely. Just disconnect the screen. And then you can see it's all leaked into here, leaked on the rubber, so we need new rubber pads. The screen's probably okay, that's probably sitting on there. Yeah, and this is going to be a no fix in terms of cost versus repair, because if we look at all that blue, this is basically gone all the way through the board, so it's gone between the layers, and all this blue is electrolyte. So we can clean this up with vinegar and it'll get rid of most of this blue. But the fact it's gone over the start and select, these pads won't work and you're going to be on it forever to repair them. So considering that new board is like, I think we charge about £40, £50 for a board swap, basically the cost of a console. We wouldn't attempt to repair something that's damaged on traces normally. You can have a go, but we won't, because little vias like that, they're going to be not lasting. We can't really warranty the work. So unfortunately that's done too much damage there, and you can see it would be new battery springs, new power switch, heavily cleaning and repairing traces here. You've got trace rot all the way up to here. Is there anything else that looks bad? No, but that's it. So we can probably get this booting and showing that, you know, the CPU works in essence, but we'd still have to swap it. So we can bypass, if we wanted to, I guess, just see this working for the sake of seeing it working. Let's just get out the original screen. Yeah, even the original screen is caked in electrolyte, but let's just get it plugged in. And then the goal here will be, if we want to just see this booting, so we want to see something on screen, maybe some beep on the audio. If we take a look down here, this is the main PMIC, so this is the thing that regulates all the voltages on the system. So you put battery voltage in here, 3 volts, comes through the power switch, which is knackered, up through here, gets smoothed by this cap. This cap goes up to this resistor on the right, and then on the left it goes into the PMIC, and this generates all your voltages. So we can bypass all of this corrosion, and we can just tap in straight off this resistor here, say, to see if it boots. So all we're going to do is find a good ground point, because obviously this board is rotted, so we need to find somewhere we trust ground is going to most of the system, because it won't be this battery spring. This battery spring is going to be as good as useless. These should be ground, these big tabs, so we have big tabs for ground. The battery spring's still good. So even though we've got that, we can actually use the battery spring, which is surprising. So we'll connect ground to the battery spring, and then we've got now a probe which we can turn on. And we want 3 volts basically. So if we go overhead, zoom out, and then what we want to see is if I just probe 3 volts onto this resistor, the system should turn on. So that's 3 volts, and then we tap on here, and there you go. So there's effectively the working Game Boy. I don't know if you can hear the audio. And that's the ground pad gone on the spring. So it is a very intermittent ground pad on the spring. Let's try and just tap on this one instead, solid ground. Yeah. There we go, so you can hear the audio. But obviously we've got too much trace damage basically to make this a viable repair. What we'd do is swap this board out for the customer here. We keep this for spares, so when we make the new re-PCB, we can use this CPU and make a Game Boy from it in future. So for now, this one, I can share the link with the customer so they can see basically the state of this. And we'll leave this to one side now in a tub until they get back to us, and then see if they want to basically go ahead with swapping out that Game Boy or not. It all depends on if they've got sentimental value, whether they want it repairing. But yeah, we wouldn't go, especially considering they haven't actually paid any of the diagnostics on this one. We can't even take it much further to see potentially how far we'd get with it. This is just obviously a far more of a job than what they've covered in what they've paid so far. So let me just do a bit of tidy up here, and then we'll move on to the Game Boy Pocket Lights, as I call them, even though everyone says they're just called Game Boy Lights. They're clearly a Game Boy Pocket with a backlight, so I call them Game Boy Pocket Lights. Now I've got to clean this desk as well. charge lead back. We didn't put them 4 screws back once we tested the SP, though, just noticed. Right, and so now on to these Game Boy Lites. And basically on the note, the customer, they've sent quite a few things in over the years, so we've worked on a lot of their consoles for them, and they trust us with them. These are quite expensive, so I'm not sure the current going price. Let's see what we can find one for. So they're going for, not too bad to be honest, 400 boxed and probably 150 to 300 unboxed. You can score yourself a lucky one. If you look online, you probably get them for just over 100 if you're going to repair them. These apparently work, I believe, and what we want to do is convert the backlight, which is an old school high voltage electroluminescent backlight. The customer wants a vibrant green backlight, similar to the modern backlights of where you now add a backlight to an original GBO. So you can see, in fact, I don't know if you can even see that, but that's the light off, that's the light on. So see the very subtle difference. Don't even know whether we're gonna just try to turn the lights off, see if that helps. There we go. So if you now see, if you're in the dark, you've got this, and even in the dark it's barely visible. So if I use my eyes, that is visible to me. It's not as bad as that camera shows, so you can see that's a much easier representation. So light off, light on. But this actually looks a bit brighter than what I'm seeing with my eye. So this camera's over compensating for the light. This one is under compensating, basically. So it's in between them two brightnesses, but that's how they work. And then let's just test the other one before we open them up, make sure they both work.
Remember this wiring for the clean.
Have you got the clean power on there?
Yeah, yeah.
It's ground to ground, obviously.
Which one's ground?
Bottom. That's ground. That one, yeah. That's in from there, and the out is that going to the 5 volts there.
Which is nothing on that one, that one.
No, nothing on that. No. So this one works, but is a lot duller. So let's see. I know we've got the lights on now, but see how you can barely see any change at all. So this one's very faded, which is one of the issues you tend to get on these. But either way, the consoles are booting. Let's just make sure they load games, and then we can get on with changing the backlight. So that's not going to load because it's corrupt. Oh, it still did. It must have been corrupt and then ready right after. Check the contrast works, which it does. And you'll notice the contrast on these pockets is much better because it's FSTN instead of STN, so you get a better contrast and you don't get that haze of green that you get on the Game Boy original. I definitely prefer the original though, the screen with the slight bit of ghosting. I think it's nice. That's enough testing for now, otherwise I'll start playing Pokemon and not fixing anything. So I don't think... Actually, I think there is a schematic for these now, saying that. Yes, there is. So let's take a look at... Well, let's open it up and then I'll show you the schematic and we'll figure out what we're going to do, because I haven't really made up the plan of attack yet. I just know it's possible. I've worked on quite a few of these now, and I've got one myself as well for if we need to test anything. If I'm not too confident, then we can obviously test it on mine, not the customers, but I'm pretty sure it won't be too bad. Which city we're from? Stoke-on-Trent, so in between Manchester and Birmingham, basically. Right in the middle of the country. So with them screws out, we take the back off this, and you'll see the back looks just like a Game Boy Pocket, but we have AAs instead of AAAs, and the console's slightly bigger. And then inside we have the high voltage warning, and this really is high voltage. Somebody's already done some work repairing something on this because there's a bodge wire here. But this will get to probably over 1000 volts, I'd say, quite safely. If there's no backlight on. With the backlight on, you're talking still a few hundred volts. You're still going to get shocked. So not sure what someone's done here, but we'll obviously figure that out and sort it out when we get into it. This is just like a Game Boy Pocket, all standard pretty much. I'm pretty sure this is the same exact CPU off the Pocket as well. The power switch, however, has one position here, so it goes to here, and the next position goes over to here, so it's like a double position. And on that we need to figure out where this extra pin goes, because we need to convert this, if it's not already a 5 volt, into basically a low voltage. Because at the minute, if we turn this on, I think the transformer must be the other side. It's been a while since I've worked on one, but we should see a big transformer. So let's just get this out of the shell so we can see underneath. Ah, nice show. I can never remember the retro event, if it's in Doncaster or Donington. I always get it mixed up. The retro gaming. It's got the dome, hasn't it, basically? So I always get the dome mixed up if it's Donington Dome or Doncaster Dome. I can never remember the two. but I go there most years. Take the LCD out, and then now we can lift this out, and you can see under here, one we have, we'll come to this screen and remove it in a second, but this is the back panel. This is an electroluminescent light, so this contact here is hundreds of volts, and that's what lights up this glowing backlight, and that's what the customer wants to swap with a modern LED backlight, which we'll sort. And then on the back here, the main difference between the pocket and the light is this thing here. So this is a high voltage transformer, and it outputs a lot of volts on these pins. So if we wanted to test that, just for the sake of showing you making mods for the light, maybe. I mean, the backlight, maybe. I could do other mods for it. It's just so rare, we never really see them in. So I don't think there's a massive demand, and we've got tons of things that people want still, of a lot more demand basically than what this is. So if we now power on here with 3 volts, which is 2 AA batteries, this is where we want to be careful, because like I say, this will be hundreds of volts and it will zap you if you touch it. I've not tried this one, but I know from the Game Gear it will. So let's get that in view. And then we'll want this on volts AC, because it's going to be an alternating current. I'm pretty sure it might be a DC, to be honest, but start with the AC. Turn on. There we go, so that's now turned on. And if we probe the EL pins, you can see there is 70 volts, so I'm going to guess it might be high voltage DC. No, it is just, so that's not that high. Oh, this is the failing one, that's why. So this is why this one's so dull. The gold one was the one that was dull. There should be like hundreds, and it's just 70 volts. So that's why that one's so dull. But that's part of what we're going to replace anyway, so we don't really care that that's low. Because this is the one with the duller backlight anyway. So now the goal is we need to physically replace this. It's nice and easy. All we need to do is fit a backlight in here, and if we take a look, we don't even need to really remove the screen. What we can do is just remove this backlight carefully. So if we just grab, say, this foam, lift up, we can pull this backlight out, get the foam under there, and this is now the backlight panel that we want to replace. So this thing lights up, but it's very, very dull. So the side of fitting a backlight in here is nice and easy, and I've got them somewhere. So I've got one here. So this is a nice green backlight. So if we take a look at how bright this is going to be, we've got this backlight here. I'll get the probes on here, and this will be a 5 volt. This is configured for expecting 5 volt input, and that's just set with 2 resistors on the back, so that will limit the current to the LEDs. And then if we these wires out of the way a minute. If we now probe ground on ground and 5 volts on the pos, you get a lovely bright green glow. And obviously on this angle of camera, this is fixed exposure. We'll have to go to this angle, and you'll see on here then a real, oh, that's still auto exposing. Let's see if I can get the exposure right on that. Maybe just zooming into just that, it'll expose and show the colour for what it is. No, it just wants to overexpose the camera, which is a shame, but that's a really nice green. Yeah, I don't want to mess with like the camera's exposure for showing you that, just for you'll see it at the end, but that's basically a pure green that lights up. So what we need to do is fit this inside of here, which we can do because it's the right size, which it's meant to be. And then we need to solder from here to 5 volts to only come on when the switch is on. So fitting that inside is as simple as sliding it in. There's the backlight done. Now we need to solder on here. Ground can be permanently connected, which is this side. So we want ground here and 5 volts here. Oh no, we've got dad jokes coming in, have we? PS4 and PS5 controllers, we've got one in at the minute, but we stopped working on them. So this customer, well, the previous customer, sent like this one in for stick drift, but we just stopped working on them. It's too much labour for the cost, basically, that we charge. It's cheaper to buy another controller than have the work done by us. Bypassing the transformer, surprisingly it's quite efficient. It's not as efficient as LEDs, but it's not that bad. So yeah, they are going to get better battery life, but it's not as inefficient or inefficient as you'd think, the transformer. Cameras I've already been through once on this stream as well. We get it quite often. I'm going to probably make a video on it, but basically we've got OBS bots, they're called. Yeah, OBS bots for this camera you've seen at the minute and the face cam. And then the overhead camera, this one is Blackmagic, so this one can go, you know, really sharp and really close. So if we zoom in, obviously we've got that, and then we can zoom in even further digitally, and you've got basically almost a microscope style view just from a top-down camera. Right, so we need to either figure this out ourselves or pull up a schematic, which I think there is one. So let me just, I think the last time I worked on them I didn't have a schematic, and then I totally forgot somebody actually made one. Yeah, so let's take a look at this and see what we're dealing with. So if we trust this, you can't always trust schematics, they're wrong very often. We're looking for the power switch. That's headphone and audio, D-pads, buttons, contrast adjustment, LCD bias, protection diodes, extension port. Right, so mains power, that's the DC jack. Mains power switch, so this is the thing we're interested in. We have, let's see, the switch, well, it should be labelled for one. SW1 VCC is going to be the battery, so the battery voltage is on pin 1 and 3. So if we look at that, have we got any labels? Yeah, so pin 1 and 3 apparently here, so this and this are apparently battery voltage. So let's just test that. Always confirm, you know, don't just presume the schematic's right. Broken 3000 onboard charger for high voltage vehicle. I've never worked on them, to be honest, yet. Have you got one you're trying to fix up, or is it just a general question? So this should be, if I've got this right, battery voltage, which is not. So there's the first point of the schematic, which is wrong. So we can't trust the schematic already. Pin 3 is the battery, so at the minute I am probing on pin 3 here and the battery positive. So obviously we get battery positive connecting. but this one isn't. Now, is it when it's in a different position, maybe? No. So the schematic's wrong in terms of maybe the pin numbers. So is there another pin that 3 connects to? Yep, so it's probably just more of a pin number issue. Yeah, so this pin and this pin are connected, so there is 2 pins connected, but this isn't pin 1. The same this side, these 2 pins kind of join to each other. So we've got to make sure we get that right. For the high voltage stuff, if it's broken, then you'd normally find something quite visibly wrong with it, I'd say, is my first guess. You'd be looking for, it's either going to be something visibly wrong, or there could be electronic safeties that lock it out and don't let it turn on because of the safety risk. Oh yeah, the bot is literally just spamming. I think it's just after attention because I went away for a week. Telling everybody off for messaging. Right, so we've got these 2 pins here, pin 1 and 3. We've figured out pin 3 is correct, and this one here, pin 1, is the one at the side of it. So that leaves the other one. This is VCC, which... Why do we have a discharge resistor? That's interesting. There's a permanent discharge resistor on it. See note 3. Where's note 3? Note 3, R4 provides a discharge. Yes, but why? In the off position. Well, it's not in the off position there. Ah, yeah, I see. So what it's saying is that when the switch is off, so this is showing the off position at the minute, VCC will be system power, so this is where we connect. When we flip the switch down to here, we send the battery voltage through pin 3. That's actually not wrong. Pin 3 and then this unnamed pin is just a pad, and pin 1 is the pin above, so the schematic's probably still right. So pin 3 power comes in. When this arm swings down, we send pin 3 to pin 2, and that's the on position, and pin 1 is the off. So let's verify that, and that should mean pin 2 and 1 in the off position. So there's pin 1, is that pin 2? Yep, so we have this pin 1 just goes to this resistor here. This is the discharge to get rid of the capacitive charge when you turn it off. That's literally all that does. From there to ground, it goes nowhere else. So that's that wrapped up pretty much. Well, it's got a test pad on, so it might go somewhere else, but it doesn't look like it goes anywhere. This is the main system voltage then. This will go to the main regulator, I presume. Yep, so that goes down to the voltage regulator, the input pin here. The output then generates 5 volts out here. And then pin 3 is the battery voltage, as we know, so that leaves pin 4 and 5. So if we now look at pin 4 and 5, this has to be to do with something's got to connect extra when obviously we want the backlight to come on, so it's logically got to be pin 5. Pin 5 joins to pin 4, which I presume only happens when you go to that second position, otherwise it doesn't make any sense. So my guess is these outer 2 pins will only connect when we go to the final position. There we go. So what we're dealing with is we need to see what happens on pin 4 and 5, and this is where we need to I don't know whether we just open the switch or cut the traces and rewire it, but let's just see first. Let's take a look at what this is and where VDD is. So VDD, main power supply, nominal 5 volt regulated. Oh, simple. So VDD is already regulated, pin 4. Pin 5 we want to tap off. We can either just remove R10 to disconnect the power, and then the switch goes nowhere but to where we want it, or we can remove the transformer completely. So I'm just going to keep it stock because the customer might want to revert this in future. So we just need to find SW1 R10, remove it, and pin 5 should be 5 volts, which we can also prove. So if we just focus that a bit more, there we go. SW1, and I'm going to guess that is meant to be the resistor. Are we zoomed in? much as we can there. So let's just see. You've got switch 5 goes around quite clearly to that resistor. So 10 ohm, which is what the schematic says. So this is going to be SW1 R10. It's just not saying R10. So all we need to do is remove this resistor, and that will disable the old high voltage circuit. So there's no risk then of the high voltage kicking in. What we'll do as well is we'll move this resistor. So instead of removing it, we'll obviously remove it, but we'll just keep it there and rotate the board around, and then super zoomed in. Where have I gone? There we go. So on that pad now, I'm just going to tack it in place there, so out the way on the side, and if the customer ever wants to reuse it, it's in place. Now this pad should just switch to 5 volts when we turn on to that second position. It's that simple. I'm not even going to test that. I'm just going to wire this thing up and presume it's good. But I suppose one thing we will do is just test that we get 5 volts on pin 4 all the time, because that's obviously what's going to switch, so we need to make sure that is actually 5 volts and not something different. So if we connect this up, change that back to 3 volts. And now if we move that over to there, zoom out. Get that on show, there we go. Voltage, and now we should have, that should already be on. Let's turn it off. Let's see that in there, and then we should have your 3 volts here, which you can see we do. Up to the switch, the system isn't on yet, so we get nothing. Turn it on and we get the 3 volts, but what we're interested in is pin 4. This will be regulated 5 volts only when the system turns on. So you see you've got 5 volts, and in the middle position, right there, pin 5 shouldn't have anything, which it doesn't, and when it goes all the way over, we get 5 volts. So that's exactly what we want. And now we just got to solder some wires in to make this work. So what we'll do is that will go in there. We'll lift off, or shall we lift this way? I'll probably make it so we lift the board up this way and place it there. So let's just start by attaching some wires to this. Thoughts on iFixit? I didn't even know they did anything like us. I thought they just sold tools, to be honest. I do know the one thing about them, though, they can be sold out, because we get a lot of online trolls that try and disprove things we do, and they were actually one of them, surprisingly, that jumped in on some random thing. I can't even remember what it was. I think it was like a cap kit, trying to prove like Game Gear cap kits don't work or something, and they were trying to say that our cap kits that we've sold like 10,000 of in the last 5 years are wrong, and lo and behold it was because they wanted to release a cap kit just like ours, and if they did they'd get called cloners, but because they tried to justify some random reason for their cap kits coming out being completely different than our cap kits, even though they're exactly the same, yeah, that's the only thing I've ever heard of them bar selling screwdrivers. Actually, we want this pad, so that's the one we want. And then ground we can pick up from, I believe this is ground here, or we could go that via there will be ground. Let's just double check that. The metal cage is soldered, actually it looks press fit, doesn't it, I think. yeah, that's just press fit. So this top metal cage is like clipped into some plastic under here, not soldered in. Let's just check if this is ground. So I think, where was it? This one, there. Okay, we'll just tack onto here for ground, I think. Just on the edge of there. Yeah, you can send your Mega Drive in. Just go to retro6.co.uk, send in services, and then there's a Mega Drive option in there with repair and upgrades. And if you don't find what you want, just basically just ask us if there's something on there that isn't showing that you need to know. So that then we have power and ground. Oh yeah, they're doing a wiki now too. Yeah, no shocker. So, just like everyone else that just steals everything basically. Right, so the way we want to do this is fit this that way around. Ground is on this side, and we don't want to leave this too long, but I think that's probably just good enough because we're going to have to tuck these wires in, so that's not too bad. We zoom out now. You can see we're just resting that there. I'm going to leave them pretty much that length, and I think we can hide them in. Let's just strip this end. Alright, so that's the two ends stripped. And then we have ground on the left, so we just need to put ground, which is this one. On the left, tuck that in, and then 5 volts on the right. I know, it's alright, we get people all the time just ripping our stuff off. It's been going on for years. Literally every couple of products we release, somebody will clone what we're doing or try to. PS4 freezes on boot screen, boot into safe mode. If you get into safe mode but you can't get to boot screen, just start with the obvious. Put a completely blank hard drive in, or format the SSD in Windows so it's purposely not the right format, then put it in, boot into safe mode and try to do an update over a USB. Sometimes that fixes it. Right, so I think this is it. I think this, if we've done everything right, we should have a really nice backlight. This we might need to secure in place, but it's fairly firm, and under pressure I don't think it's going to move, so let's just leave it loose for now and see how we go on with this. We just want to make sure we don't trap them wires under anything. I suppose I could offer this service on the website as well, considering we don't even have this listed. Now we've done it, we could offer like an LED backlight upgrade, and we've got loads of colours. We've got like blues, whites, reds, pinks, yellows, oranges. So I suppose I might as well list this as an option. They're asking if you're singing, Zach.
Am I singing?
Or you may have been laughing.
Pardon?
You might have been laughing.
It's probably that many.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's probably the rest of the family in the kitchen. Happy it's a Friday afternoon. Right then, so that's all screwed together. Shall we see if, let's just put the back on and use batteries. Let's use it in how it would be used. Don't think we're missing anything here. Yes we are. Power switch. Thing you need to turn it on. So this should be nice and vibrant green if we've done this right. And we've done it wrong. Oh no, we haven't. We've done it right. So you can see that lovely, nice green screen, but good job I didn't screw it together. But oh, actually, I think the power switch was in the right spot, but if you don't screw the back together, then it's just sliding underneath the power switch. So let's try that again. So there we go, and now you can turn the console on like that. Contrast wheel hopefully is just, oh, we've lost contrast. So part of that circuit we've disabled. No, that makes sense. I think something's just not connected right there, because you shouldn't lose contrast. I don't think contrast is coming off that circuit at all. No, it isn't. So we've probably just got the screen not connected very well somehow. This is probably just slightly slanted. Hopefully the screen isn't damaged from moving it about. It's just maybe in the wrong orientation. Let's try that. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the contrast. I've got just permanent full contrast. Which obviously, that could just be a screen. I could grab another screen. Let's just grab this screen, to be honest, and see if... Imagine, let's grab a normal pocket screen. Got a Game Boy Pocket there. Or a Game Boy Pocket screen. Yeah. So it's exactly the same screen as the Pocket. So what we'll do is let's just try a Pocket screen in here to see if it's anything to do with disabling that backlight. I can't see it being, I think it's just but I'm hoping it's not bad luck that we've actually got a damaged screen, because we've barely moved it. As you've seen, we've pretty much kept it in place. So in one way you'd hope it was the resistor, but I can't, based on the schematic, that resistor doesn't power anything else. So let's see now if this works. Now the screen might be bad anyway, so that's not helped us any. Or is the contrast working on that? No, so that could be a bad screen. So let's maybe do the other way around. I could either grab another screen, or we could connect this screen up to this console. Consoles we work on most often are probably things like this, Game Boys and Game Gears. It's just I don't normally work on them because they're not really that technical, so it's not too much of a problem. Did I actually plug that in the right way? I did, yeah, so it's not that. Actually, let's use the original screen. I'd say Game Boys of all kinds, Game Gears, and then we've started seeing quite a bit more desktop consoles recently. but we tend to have like spurts of, we'll have like, you know, a load of SNESes in one go and then a load of Neo Geos in one go, and it seems to just be whatever people see us working on or whatever happens, they then the order. So yeah, this screen works fine in this one. I don't think there's a difference in the screens. I mean, there might be. We could also have the regulator down there not generating the voltages. Let's just check them. Because maybe the old regulator's just lost the voltage output. No, this is double check, but I think this is working fine. Yep, so the contrast's working. Let's try once more connecting it, and then we'll have to open it up and see what's gone wrong. Yeah, so there's definitely something with that, so let's just take it away from the circuit board first, see if it's anything to do with contact. Yeah, so maybe the backlight sitting under there is applying too much pressure, maybe. Let's just flip this over and try powering on like this. Might be the thickness of the backlight getting in the way, or we might need to try and resolder the LCD. Yes, that is not having any. So, see, what we're hoping it's not is obviously the original LCD here, this little flex ribbon is obviously connecting to all of the circuit. The solder joints here and the solder joints down here. So I'm hoping that this sitting under here isn't just applying too much pressure, or maybe these solder joints being weak are just fracturing here when this is on. So it might be a weak LCD. But what we'll do, see if we can slide this out of the way. And then this is now the original screen without any extra tension. I've got a feeling it's going to be this down here. I think we're going to have like a weak point on there, maybe. Let's just turn this over. And then we've got all the parts separate now. And there we go, it's working again now. So it's to do with the pressure of that ribbon. So we've obviously, when we're putting the backlight in, turn that off and on, you can see the screen basically works without it in. So we're going to have to see if we can get this in, or we need to find out what part of this is weak and try to make it not as weak, basically. I guess just try pointing it in again first. we might just get the position just right, because you can't get any thinner. It's got to go in here, so it's got to go under there. I think it's going to be I almost want to kind of tack this down with, I think I will, just so it can't move. Now, you don't want to get IPA anywhere near this, so I'm not going to clean that up, otherwise IPA is going to run into where we don't want it. But I'm just going to use some of this clear UV curable sort of silk screen to try and stop this bending up. So that on there, and then UV light. Let's just cure that. No, the foam pads were to push the, it's in the original pocket, not the other one as well. They're to push the circuit board, well, basically to keep the screen pushed in to the circuit board. It wouldn't stop this bend. It's mainly because the original EL is literally wafer thin, and this is like 2mm thick, so we're bending this ribbon up more than it originally was, and these are obviously old and fragile joints. So now if we move that, see how it's not bending it now, it's staying in place. So hopefully, if that was the joint that was bending and not necessarily this ribbon, because it might also be this ribbon here, and then we're kind of screwed in a way if it's that, because there's not much we can do to stop that one bending. But yeah, if we now get this in here, oh yeah, it's pulled off there as well. So it definitely, I think it's definitely that part, because it's quite tight. If you want to keep that ribbon flat, that's quite a tight fit. Let's just see if we can get it in anyway, like that, and then maybe I mean, I could set it there again. I guess we might as well. It's kind of gonna stick it in place, but I can always get it out again. This just cracks off, so it's not that hard to remove. Yeah, we do fix consoles for people. That's literally what we're doing here. This is customers that have sent in their consoles. I've just glued my finger to it. Nice. There we go. So that's I think as flat as we're going to get this. That's quite awkward to do, but that's not a problem if this works. So let's see if that's sorted it. If not, then I'd probably have to rethink how I'm going to do this. I don't even know if we could do it if this doesn't work. I think this is like the well, we could. It's just a lot more work. Moment of truth. Has this kept it in place well enough to still work? No, So as soon as you put it back in, there's too much pressure on that ribbon. That's a shame. So that's annoying because it's a simple problem, but what's the solution? Let's just check that still works again now with it out of case. Ah, nice. Glad you got the Game Gear stuff. The new backlight is what's pressing on, well, basically bending the ribbon to a point where it won't work. So it's the thickness of this backlight is the problem, being thicker. But I think it's partially just more so the LCD ribbon's weak already. Yeah, so see, it's stayed bad even though it's out now. So it's just, we have a weak ribbon, so we might as well try and repair the ribbon, to be honest, because it's not consistent either way. This is one of the issues with them. As soon as you touch them, they can go wrong. I think it's going to be this myself, this ribbon, because yeah, I think we're going to have to get this out, because we're not going to get a consistent working screen here, I don't think, without attempting to improve this. So I think it's these connections here, but they're so fragile it's going to be a difficult job. So I think these are basically getting bent. Yeah, you can see how weak it is, and I think these are stopping working. So when it's on the other way here, this is being lifted up, obviously, like this by the backlight, and then that's lifting this connection off. So I think these are weak, but this ribbon will melt if we touch it with an iron. So I could hot air, but that's going to probably do more damage to the chip there. I could go for a reflow, but I think this is what the customer wants anyway. I've worked with them for a while and done quite a lot, so I know they're going to want this doing. You know, I know they're going to be quite happy to try and get this working. So let's just go for a quick reflow. Let's go from this way. So that's as much as I think I dare to warm these pads up, because any more and you'll melt this here. So let's see for one if that's even working. To send something in to fix, go to retro6.co.uk, and then there's a section on the website that says send in service, and in there you've got all the consoles. You just go to the console you want, click inside, and then it describes how it all works in there. There's like a link in a big yellow text box. I'll just quickly show you. So basically go to the website, scroll down, you've got a big send in service here, and then scroll down to whatever you want to send in. Say click into a Game Boy Pocket if you wanted this doing. If it works, it works. If not, have diagnostics. You can have upgrades, whatever you want doing. And then this big yellow box that everybody misses, you click this and it explains how you send it in, where to send it, what to do, all our contact details. So it's all kind of explained there for you. So let's see now if, let's get this, I reckon, zoomed in a bit more. And try this. Let's see if this LCD is now working again, because at the minute it's just dead from being moved around. Yep, so still dead, so let's see if we can find what part is dead. Kinda sucks. Oh, there we go. So you can actually, you can see on camera if I press. I had it then. Unfortunately, looks like it's the main driver chip there. Yeah, it is. So get it just in the right position there, so you can see the screen come on. It's literally this paper ribbon that's bad. So unfortunately, that's going to be very hard to get in the position that we can use this. Yeah, so it'd have to be almost, what's happened there is it's just been in that position for so long since it's been made. It's basically been this chip pushed flat against here for so long. As soon as you're moving this up and down, this ribbon is your problem. So if we push this chip down, these pins here that are soldered kind of make contact again, but it's going to be very hard to, one, fix this and keep it stable, and then two, fit a big backlight under it without it bowing up. So let's just try and just warm these pads up from where I am, from the other side, just to see if we can get some kind of flow going. No, so just the same, but pushing on. Yeah, even pushing on that doesn't want to bring that back in now. And I think these are just pocket screens anyway, with the rear part removed, so I can probably salvage a pocket screen to get this one working. I don't know whether we just move on to the second one to see if we get that one working first, and then I can always try and repair or replace this screen. Yeah, so I've just about got it back if you bend it in the right position, but it's definitely just ribbon damage. There you go, you kind of hold it in that position and it's fine. But it's definitely It's a shame because it's literally all we need to do is get this in here and working. I'm still going to try them. Let me just try and get this in position and then get it in the shell, in position, and then let's see if we can just bend that into somewhere where it stays, and we can always tack on a bit of epoxy or something to keep it in place. Oh yeah, Rusty wasn't happy when we left. He's been crazy since we've come back. So this is going to be awkward to do this as. You have to like look at it like that. And then with that in, let's see if we can bend this into a position that's happy to come on or not. There we go. So the issue seems to be right around this corner. So there, just touching that corner makes it work. So there's hope yet. I just don't know what we're going to do about that. How about electrical tape? Oh, that doesn't help when it falls out. Fell out and worked. Yeah, look, so sitting outside, it's worked. Yeah, in terms of reflowing these, that you're not gonna. Well, you can reflow them. I actually did a video on exactly how to. I think you set your hot air to like 110 or 180. I can't remember which, and keep it at like 3 inches away. I did a whole little TikTok on how to actually reflow these screens, but I'm just gonna see if we can just tape this down to keep it in position. Yeah, it's delicate, but that's now in position and working. So it's not so much the backlight that's the problem. It's just the fragileness of this ribbon. It's really fragile. So, you know, moving this around, and there you go, you're like bending it. So I don't think it'll be a problem if it stays in position when it's assembled. But it's going to be an issue trying to get that in. We could also apply a bit of foam on here so that we add even more pressure when the PCB goes down to really push them connections flat. So if we did this over here like this, we're going to gain even more pressure when we close this up. Where's the rubber's gone? Down there, there we go. Right, so with that in, let's see if this can stay in position and actually work. Yeah, we went Tenerife for 5 days, so it was well nice just sitting doing nothing for 5 days, eating and sunbathing. Oh, not quite there. So we've got it assembled, but it's lost the visual again. That's a shame. Just wiggled that once more. See if it's any better. No. So I think the only option we've got on this is we're going to have to attempt reflow this ribbon, I think. I don't think we've got much choice, because it's obviously partially fractured. See if we can see anything. Oh yeah, straight back to sunny England after that. So this is the issue we've got. This is basically like tissue paper. This side isn't too bad, but it's these solder joints here that will be dry. So if you touch an iron on this, you're instantly going to melt this connection. So you can't use a soldering iron. There's no way you can use an iron. You can use maybe a silicone pad and press down, but this is a tricky one. I'd like to hot air it, but we're going to melt the plastic underneath. There's no good way of solving this issue. There really isn't. The best solution would be finding the right pressure point that just makes the screen almost sit where it was before we did this work, so that it kind of is back to where it was. There's some good beaches in Cornwall in the UK, like the south basically, that's where your best beaches are. Right, I want to still feel we can get this in a position that would work. Yeah, so all I've got to do is actually. No, it isn't. It is this. It's still this connector here. So pulling this slightly in like this must be making that connection work. So we can actually hopefully get this working. So it was this bottom piece. So let's see if we pull this in like that and take that down. Do we have it working? No, of course not. Let's look at what we're doing before we tape it down. Oh, I say look at what you're doing, you can't see anything. You still can't see anything, so Can I get this so you can even see what I'm doing? There we go. So I'm just pulling. See how that's coming on there? I didn't disconnect the power. So there's that. And then if I pull this tape that I've got attached in the right position, and there you go, you can see that's the screen there, you can just about see it. So if I could just tape that in the right position. Oh, I see, as soon as you fold it down it goes off, so folding up. This is really finicky. Oh, there you go, see, when you're just holding it in a certain spot, you get it right. This is very annoying. It's got to be the most boring part of watching a repair here, just bending a ribbon and it working and stop working. This is so frustrating. Oh yeah, I love Guinness. I've been to the Guinness factory as well. It's really one of my favourite drinks, to be honest. I don't know how much success we're going to have with getting this thing staying in a position. I think it's just too fragile. Try pretty much every technique I can think of here. And then it's working until you turn it over. Literally it teases you. It's working upside down, you flip it over and it stops working again. Like you can almost get it landing in the position every time. There you go. I think it's the it's this fracture point here. I'm sure there's like a fracture in this. Yeah, there definitely is. In fact, do I hold that? Yeah, it's everywhere. It's like got a fracture at the side there. So if you hold that, you get it to load, where it did a second ago. And then if you push down on here, so it's literally both joints, basically they're just very fragile. And the irony is, it's probably one pin out of all this that's the part that's broken as well. What do we reckon? Do we just go for stripping a pocket and swapping it for this one, maybe for the customer, and then the other one I can obviously do exactly the same. It's just bad luck really, this is, more than anything. Yeah, so that's in a position now working, but you just know, like, as soon as you move anything, it's gonna go. It's very, very annoying. I wonder if we just commit to taping down one part of it. So one part can't really move that much. And then see if we can adjust this. Yeah, so it's the main part that I got it working with originally down here. With that taped in, it doesn't do anything, so I think it is just moving this. It is ultimately this ribbon part that's the weakest. And when I was moving this before taping this down, I was getting it to kick in, but now that does nothing. So it is this part. What to do? I know the minute I touch this, we're going to have issues with melting that ribbon or something behind it. It's almost a guaranteed problem. But at this stage, I think there's nothing else. We're not going to get this, I think, in a position that's going to stay on without doing something anyway. So I think it's kind of an all or nothing on this one anyway at this stage. Let's just give it one more go. Hey, welcome in, Chili. Yeah, so that one's still off there. It's normally around there. No. Okay, let's try a bit of gentle heat. That's the last thing we can really do on this. So for this, we're just going to do 3% airflow, so basically nothing. And 180 degrees. So this is, you can basically warm your hand, it's just hot air. Anything more and we're going to melt plastics and things, but we can't use flux because it's going to go into the LCD. So this is just purely all we can really do is a bit of warmth. See if that's done anything. No, nothing. So I think that's it for this one. I think it's going to just be a new pocket screen. But the idea, obviously it works, it's going to work. All the circuit's been figured out. That clearly does work. We just had bad luck with that ribbon, I think, so I'll gut a normal pocket, find a good pocket screen, because this one's, obviously, you can tell the original pocket is identical. So if you compare that to this one, you can see the original pocket's exactly the same. It's just that you have to take off the backing. So it has a, I believe, just a silver backing. It's got a polarizer as well behind, so we might have to take that off as well. I'm not worried about this one. This is just a already damaged screen in that sense, so let's use this one to test. I think once we take them two layers off, we're down to the same as the Pocket Lite. I think if I come to do this on one I'm actually going to use, I'll obviously apply heat and stuff to get this off. I just want to see firstly if we can even use a pocket screen. I'm pretty sure we can. And let's just compare that to this one as well. So it's got a silver back, which might just be silver reflective, and the ribbon looks to me to be identical. So that ribbon to me looks the same as that. So let's just see if so. If we manage to clean up a pocket screen properly, could this work? And then we'd have silver reflective behind there, because obviously you're seen through, so that's why they've got the silver reflective. have I got anything I can put behind at the minute? Because we're not going to see anything without. Maybe just putting that behind's enough to see. Let's just see if we see anything at all. Hey Brian, thanks for that. I'm glad you're managing to run a business from it. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so this doesn't have any contrast still. Is it the rear polarizer that can stay? No. Yeah, so maybe there's a subtle difference between the two, or this screen's just as dodgy with ripping all the stuff off that it's got no contrast. Yeah, so I think I need a few more parts and a few more working systems to really figure out if this is going to be a viable option. I think we need, yeah, we definitely need another working screen. The screen I took it out of, yeah, it was intermittent. It didn't work at first, then it did, so it's just the only one I've got on hand at the minute. But I'm 99.9% sure I've used pocket screens. I just don't think I've got any left up here at the minute. I've got hundreds of them, but lying around here at the minute, I don't think I've got them left. It's like I say, we know it's going to work. It's not a major issue. It's just that when I do the other one, bear in mind this one was also the one that was really dull to begin with. It was very weak on the backlight as well. But yeah, I think other than me sitting playing here with this for a while, I might get it working, but I think I'll just move on to the other one, do the same on the other one, and then I can come back to this and try and fit another screen in it. I think is going to be the solution. In fact, I might even have a screen around here. Yeah, so I've got one. I've got another one here. So let me just take 5 minutes and I'll come back and we'll carry on with this. So I'll just be back in a sec. Right, and let's try and get this working. So I've got the customers here. I've also got, I've got behind me, I've got a pocket here that should work, and a pocket light, which I think this had corrosion, so it's a donor. But let's just start with the pocket original, like just the pocket, and let's see if we get a working screen and plug it in and show that it does or doesn't work. Let's just prove that first, 'cause I'm sure the original pocket screen should work. Okay, this one doesn't power on, but let's presume the screen works anyway. Tri-wing. So there's the seen this one. So this looks like a good screen. Let's see if this works. That way in. Yeah, I mean, I can tell you how to fix this. Swap the screen. We know what the problem is. They're just fragile screens. But yeah, it's definitely getting me back for ripping into people that fix these. Right, so does that work in the original? No, which is, see, now I'm sure it would have. I'm almost positive. I'm wondering whether there's a problem with the contrast. The contrast circuit of this console, you know. Not so much the screen. I could have. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. I knew it did. So that's a working screen in there. So now let's hope that this donor Game Boy I've got here, this Game Boy Lite, I'm sure this was a donor because, yeah, you'll see why, but this is why donors are good sometimes. Look inside straight away. I remember this was absolutely wrecked, but I purchased it off the customer because I knew something like this would end up happening with a Game Boy Lite, and it's even the same model for all that matters. The screen would be the same, but this is still a gold Game Boy Lite, so hopefully the screen in this is fine, and we can just drop that in, and then I don't think I'll charge the customer anything different because technically when we work on stuff we say things can go wrong during just disassembly due to the age, and you know, we're not liable for damage and all that kind of stuff, but this is a long-standing customer and they put a lot of work through us, and these aren't that popular, so this donor screen is probably not going to have got used anyway. This is more luck, I think, than anything, so it's not actually cost me anything much to get this screen because we did the work on this anyway. But you can see that the reason we won't fix this is all this, but hopefully the screen we can reuse. And then, like I say, the customer can have this screen for free then. And then we just got to hope the next one we do that we don't have the same issue with the fragile ribbons, because that's literally just the name of the game with these. Unfortunately, they are exactly that. They're just fragile ribbons. Can we fix the horizontal lines? We've just tried it on this one in a sense, but I did do a video on TikTok of the technique, the best technique to fix horizontal lines. They're very difficult and not normally something that you'll be able to do, but there is a chance. So yeah, you can see this board is not salvageable, other than for, like, you know, the transformer and the screen really are the only two things I'm going to be gaining off this this board. But luckily, that's one thing we want, is the screen. So let's slide this out, and let's hope if we're as gentle as possible. Even the EL panel's got battery rot on, so I'm just hoping this screen is good. Do we even keep it in the shell just for now to see if it works? I think we do. So let's move them out of the way. I don't need any of this anyway from my donor console. The only thing I'm going to use now is the transformer. So we need, well, we've got a lot of stuff on the desk. It's starting to get messy. This will work, won't it, without doing anything? Yes. So let's just take this out. And we won't even put the backlight in yet. We're just going to move over, connect the new screen up. And this is still in the old shell. We want to keep everything as in place as we can before we move this, and see if it survives the move then. So now well, it does, but we've got, unfortunately, liquid crystal rot there. So that's a shame. It might be the polarizer, but by the time you do the polarizer, that's just as much work as getting a Game Boy Pocket screen and removing the back off. So let's get this out of the shell. And yeah, we've got a ton of crystal rot, and you can tell it's crystal rot because that is, and that looks the same. That's not very fun. And I know there's a technique that I've never personally tried that I guess, why not? Let's just try on this as well. If you put a lot of pressure on, you can sometimes basically squeeze the crystal fluid back into where it should be. But they have to do this for quite a while, when I've seen. Oh, it's working. never tried it before, but basically really firm pressure, and you're pushing the liquid crystal back in. No way. That's wicked. So if that dark patch fades, I mean, that is the crystal, the liquid in the crystal matrix. It's spreading out. So I'm amazed that works. I've genuinely never tried it. I've seen it done before, but I didn't believe it really, to be honest. I didn't think you'd be able to just force it back in, but yeah, it's I don't know if we're going to be able to squeeze all the edge back in. Because when I've seen people do this, they literally take 5 to 10 minutes to get the crystal in, but how much of this is going to be visible? I think, to be honest, most of this is not going to be visible. Yeah, so we don't need to get rid of too much to get rid of them visible edges. So let's presume I can rub the rest out, and let's try and fit this in the customer's shell, and then I can always sit there and try and get that crystal back in off camera. I don't think you want to see me sit and push crystal fluid back in for 20 minutes, but let's just see now if we can place this back in. Place this backlight under here. I think it was just more, like I say, bad luck and a fragile screen than anything else. I don't think it's going to be a problem on the other one, you wouldn't have thought, because there's no pressure applied there. Look how easy that goes in. I think we just had bad luck with the other one. So let's put that down into there. And like I say, I think the condition of this was one of them that was dull, and it's obviously got some bodge wires on, so I think that's partly to do with the fact I think it's already quite a fragile console. So let's just put the back on. Let's presume this is all good to go, and everything's in, apart from the power button that I always forget. Yeah, that definitely wasn't intentional. Right, then that on there. Close that down. And if we hold it together without screws, do we get what we wanted? There you go. So that's what should have happened the first time. I think we just had, well, I say bad luck, like I say, I think it's the condition of this console. It's just the screen is obviously, that's on the screen. This screen's obviously quite fragile. So now I've got an option, and all I've got to do is get rid of that little crystal there, I think, and a tiny bit here. We have a viable option. And then, like I say, hopefully the silver one won't be that bad. Yeah, and the crystal's fine. I can't believe that's worked. I just need to try and get rid of that little mark if I can. But yeah, that's what should have happened, and that's like nice and green. That's what the customer wants, basically. And then I think if I show you on the other camera, look how nice and green that is. That's what my eye's seen there. You can see that deep green. That's what I'm actually seeing myself. Contrast wheel. If I actually roll the contrast wheel, that works perfect. So, volume. Jesus, get behind him in. So there you go. Contrast all the way through. The range works. So that's really nice. I like that. So that's an option. I think I'll offer this as an option still. It's just there's a risk, isn't there, basically, especially on the Lites, that if this happens again, I don't have a spare, and this is just something that you can't avoid. You've kind of seen me working with it and seen the level of delicacy, in a sense, of just sliding this under, and there was no specific, I wouldn't say aggressive movements of the ribbon. Maybe in future we could be a bit more delicate if we know they're that delicate, but I already know they're delicate, so I naturally kind of work with them in that way. I think this one's just been almost as soon as we cracked it open and moved it, it's like damaged. So I'll still try and repair this ribbon. Now we know we've got a spare, so this is definitely doable. But yeah, that's really nice. I'm impressed with that. And then you can obviously turn the backlight off, use it as normal, or turn the backlight on. So that's pretty cool. Right, so I wonder if then, I'll tell you what, let's get. Is this a pocket? Yep, we've got a pocket here. That's the customer's. That's my donor now. So let's just get rid of some stuff a minute before I get stuff mixed up. That needs to go on there. Yeah, definitely desk tidy up a minute before stuff goes missing and all over the show. That one there, that to there. That is a spare pocket. That's the customer's buttons and rubbers and screws. That's my spare back, which To be honest, the back I've got is about the same condition I was getting, so I could give the customer the back I've got, but it's basically the same condition. We've got the 4 screws for inside. That's the spare part for the customer to keep. That's the spare pocket screen out the way. And that is spare screws. Dark spots in the bottom corner. What are we referring to? The screen that we're working on now, or something else? Right, so yeah, I think I deserve to after that, to be honest. Right, what I want to do with this one is, because this is the customer's faulty screen, and we don't need the backlight to see this, I'm going to use this Game Boy Pocket, which I think worked. I'm not even sure now. Yeah, so there you go. So now we can work on this nice and easy. There's the fault. You can see it's not there. It's not in that. Where it is the back of the ribbon. So you see there, you move it. So it's still going to be awkward to see, to be honest. So there you go. So you can see where it is, and where I'm holding is always the same area. It's this area here that's damaged. So you can see literally touching, letting go of that area, it then goes, and I'm just pressing on that area to get it back. So this is so frustrating because you can see it floating there, and you can almost leave it there, but I want to get that to stay. You know what, I think it might be this glass intersect here. No, it isn't, it is that part. Yeah, it's not the glass intersect, it is just... yeah, it's there. See, I want to be able to flip this around so I can work on this, but look at that. But you can't really do that. So I'll tell you what, let's hold. Oh, that's so frustrating, it just kicks in. I want to almost hold it there, get the hot air on. So let's leave it flat. Let's go for this. If we break it, we break it because we've got a spare one. And it's no good in the state it's in, this kind of super fragile state. You can't really run continuity on this. This is like hundreds of connections that go to glass, and it's just a press fit, and this ribbon is paper backed. In a sense, it's like basically low melt plastic. So unfortunately these kind of LCD bonds are not something you can do except with hot air. And then this'll fade back to normal. This dark here, that's from heating it up. So it's not that glass bond. Let's try this glass bond. No, it's not that glass bond either, because that would have changed with that much heat. I doubt it's this cob chip here. Just eliminating all other avenues before we go to the area where I think we're not going to be able to repair, but we can use flux here luckily because it's out the way of the LCD. If we get flux on the LCD, then it's again a really difficult thing to clean off properly. No, so it's not going to be that. So it is going to be the bit that we really don't want it to be on the other side, but let's just go for it then, because there's nothing left now to get this working. Right. I mean, I almost want to reflow that, but tell you what, let's try that. Let's get some guard against the heat underneath here, and let's try and maybe reflow this with a bit of heat. So a bit more than I'd normally want to do, but let's see. Now I can't really tell if this is working, so the power can stay off for this bit. And there you go, so that's clean off straight away with that little bit of air. You can see how hardly on that was. So now we've separated the two ribbons. The other thing we could do is swap this ribbon out, but I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is in this ribbon here. So now the only thing we could do now we've got that out is move that out of the way and run an iron down here, but if we even remotely touch that, we're done for. So maybe do that and get some air on this. Yeah, I can't imagine it being these pins here, because they're nice and solid, those pins. They're like big pins that go through. Same on this ribbon, the big pins, so I don't think they were going to be the issue. It's definitely this area here, these fine pins. So let's just put some fresh solder. Flux, I use Styri. I normally use Styri V3. This ASM's nearly gone, and then I'll be trying a few others. I don't know whether I can actually tin these without melting them, but there we go. So I've just got a bit of fresh tin on there. It's fresh tin on that. So let's try and put this back on, just in the hopes that it was maybe this connector, but I doubt it. And then failing that, we'll have a go at hot air in this bit. So we can do this on here, and I think the best bet for this is going to be, in fact, probably the best bet for this is, oh no you can't, you'd have to do that way around. In fact, that's probably the way around they'd assemble it. Don't know whether to remove this connector so that we can do the other one. I think I will. So I'm just going to remove this connector in order to solder the other one on first. I'm guessing this is how they did it at the factory. It'll be very low melt. So this is just 330 degrees air at 10%. So very low because the heat's got nowhere to go. And there's that off. So now what I think they'll have done, assembly wise at the factory, is to obviously have it this way first, and then we have the screen, zoom out a bit, there's the ribbon that you could obviously replace. We can fold this down and solder it by hand, and then fold this down and solder this by hand. So that's how I'm guessing the assembly process went when this was made. So just chuck some fresh solder on that. Clean these while we can, while they're in a folded out shape. This is the best time. We're going to have to clean these. This is why I'm tempted in one way to try and reflow this ribbon now. But, because I can use flux, you see, if I flatten that down, I could use flux on here and a bit of hot air to reflow them pins, but the likelihood is you're almost always going to melt this part of the ribbon. That's why I really don't want to do this. But it's a good opportunity to try and fix this, so I think I'm going to go for it. I think I'm going to put some tape on that connection so it can't ping off when we warm it up. Use a little bit of flux, and then hope this doesn't melt. If it melts, we're done for anyway. So now, pick a side. Do we tape that side? I think we do, because that's the capped on. And go for this side. So what I'm going to do is apply tape over here to keep it all in position, and I'll probably leave that tape on. Probably should have applied that a bit neater, because that'll add some structure to this. So let's apply that again. So that's the tape on there, and what that's going to do is stop these two pieces naturally falling away from each other. I'm going to put some flux on now, and let's just really hope we don't melt this ribbon. So I've never done this successfully bar once on a Game Boy because of how delicate these papers are, but I'm going to turn down the heat to literally down to like 180, which is barely enough to melt the solder, and then I'm just going to go really slow and from quite a distance away. So I'm like, you can see quite a distance away there. I'm not close to this, and it's just take a time, warm this up gently, and ideally we'd want to see, I zoomed in even more, we'd want to see some of this solder sort of bubbling under the ribbon, and then we just want to stop as soon as we see that. We don't want to go any further. We just want to try and get, and you might not even see, you might not see through this. So it's all just a wing and a prayer, to be honest, that we're looking for see if any of this, see like this, these dots around this papery bit, see if any of these kind of change shape or start moving. That gives us a hint that something's reflowing. If you see burn and melt, then we've screwed it up. So if we ever needed some luck, it's now. And this is far too much work for typically repairing a screen. It's just because it's a pocket light, we're putting a bit more energy into this. And it's just patience. And the thing is, it might not even be this connection, it might be a fracture in the traces. We're presuming it's this solder joint, but it might not even be that. It might just be the paper is literally done, basically. And I think that's probably as much as I want to risk it, even though we're not seeing anything visual. I don't really want to go much longer, because this feels like I've been on this weak connection more than long enough. So I think I'm gonna stop there. Let me see if it's touch hot. To be honest, no, it's not even warm, so let's risk it a bit more. The other one I did up to 300. I'm really not comfortable going higher, but let's go to 240. This is how we learn. because the solder will normally melt at like 300ish, 280 to 300, so if we're not getting hot enough, you're sometimes not melting the solder, but you'll tend to find the solder that makes these joints is a lot lower temp because the ribbon paper is lower temp. But if a single one of these traces falls off or melts, the entire LCD is useless. It really is. I'll be happily surprised if it works, but I'm not holding out much hope. And this would be really good if we could do this part with it all powered on, but due to the shape of the ribbon, we've got to do this blind and then build it back up basically. We can't do them. That flux. Yeah, that's flux. I thought it was bubbling then, but luckily it isn't bubbled yet. Right, that is definitely as far as I want to take that. That's had 240 degree now for quite a while. I'm not going to risk that anymore because I think it's just, we could have fixed it and we're going to ruin our work. So let's leave that where it is. Let it cool a minute, otherwise those joints will be just as delicate and we could undo what we've just done. And now we've still got to solder this ribbon back on as well. So we've got to solder just remember as well, when you clean these boards, don't put stuff back down where your flux is, where your IPA is onto the screen, otherwise you can get liquid in the screen. Right, so we are at now, it was that way, wasn't it? Yeah, so this solders onto there, folds over, that solders onto there. So now we need to also solder this onto here. That's the next step. So let's turn it around. I don't want to really remove this tape because it's a nice structural thing. Got a solder blob there. There we go. This bit shouldn't be a problem to solder this. This is quite an easy bit. So we just need to make sure we align that correctly. Through there, yep, that there. Tape that down a minute. And then this is kind of, when you get used to this, you just know it works, so you don't really see much. You just have to have the confidence that when you go under here, you are soldering those pins together. That, and then a bit of melted tape in the way. Yep, I think that's good. Right, so that's back on. We now want to fold this over. Peel that off the desk. Clean up the mess again. Dry the desk off. And now, what do we do? Solder this last joint on and hope it works. So same again, we want this line up, which you can see they've got little holes here for alignment. You've got a bit of camera glare there, reflection. But we can see there's the pins. Go forward, keep going forward. So you can see basically as long as those holes line up, we should be able to tack this down. Tack one either end. And now it's tacked. I'm just gonna put a bit of flux down there. push down. And solder. So there we go, that's a fully serviced screen. Whether it works or not, that's, I think, as good as we're going to get in terms of trying to repair the screen. So, are we going to get absolutely nothing? Or are we going to have a little bit of luck here and something works? Because that'd be nice. But, like I say, I think this is probably a 1 in 10 chance this is going to work. But let's see. We have a dead short, so I shorted that pin out. No, so nothing's changed there, but you can still touch the ribbon to get it working. So the fracture probably isn't in the solder joint, it's going to be in this ribbon. It's going to be in this paper part of the ribbon, like there. And then is that just... Yeah, so when you hold it there, the screen still works, but it's this paper part of the ribbon here is fractured, so there's basically nothing we can do. Tell you what, considering we can't do anything, let's just go full at it. We've got absolutely nothing to lose. 300 degrees on that ribbon. Let's see if we can get this in a position where we can watch it and maybe get it to recover. But I don't think we're going to, so let's try and get this at a good angle. It's hot on the finger, geez. I don't think we're going to be able to see it while we're doing the work. I think it's too hard. Unless you can see that. Nah, I think we're just going to turn it over, go for the extra heat, turn it back. No, no different there. So I don't think that's recoverable. Basically, it's just going to be, like I say, you could poke all day and get this thing working. So that's like literally poking at the ribbon. It could also be this chip under here, this black IC, but there's definitely a fracture around here, not necessarily a solder joint. So unfortunately, that's a fracture in the ribbon. And unless we get it in a very specific spot and sort of bloody hot glue it together, this thing is never going to stay. Then obviously that side here would recover when the heat cools down. That's just because there's you know, the entire screen's hot. So yeah, unfortunately that one's bad, but we've got the other one working, so it's not the end of the world. We've got the customer screen now with the backlight. And now it's time for me to just go and rub all those bits out, and then I've got another one. Don't know whether you guys want to watch me do exactly the same on this tomorrow morning or something, or whether I just do it off stream. Just let me know. But hopefully the other one will go nice and smooth, but it's going to be exactly the same as this. It's just going to be open up, fit the backlight, and then close together. But yeah, that's a really nice, I do like that. That's a really nice sort of colour. I still don't think you can beat Lights off though. I do like just playing the original Game Boy in light that's natural, and it almost looks like e-paper with it having no natural light. I do like that setup. But yeah, that's really all I've got for this one. I'm going to chill now and get up in the morning and finish the other stuff off. At least it worked though. That the whole principle and idea of what we were trying to do works. We just had some bad luck on an LCD that consumed probably about 2 hours of that was just messing with that LCD. And I might still have some go at it later, some heavy attempt at reflowing it, considering, like I say, there's nothing left to lose. So in fact, sorry, for the last couple of minutes, let's just go absolutely full as if this isn't a ribbon that melts, and let's just have a go at reflowing it properly. But you'll probably see this is exactly why you can't just do reflowing on these ribbons like normal. So this is, say, 360 at 40% airspeed, and you'll probably see this just melts in no time. Like we don't want it to, but it's not going to work any other way. So see if we get to ever see any of these solder joints actually do anything. And we'll also know the temperature. If anybody else is trying to repair these, then we'll know the temperature at which this becomes too much. But I'm surprised it hasn't melted already, based on, yeah, that paper's getting soft. Yeah, so the heat now has pretty much deformed this here, but this might be a hint at where the problem lay, because look at that kink that it's kind of formed. It's kind of formed a sharp kink there, and this is in the area where we had the trouble. So I'm wondering whether that heat has kind of revealed that this kink here is the area where, you know, the damage would be, because there's quite a distinctive shape there that's formed with heat. So I'm wondering whether that's, if anything, it doesn't look like it's melted it, but maybe that's exposed the weak point of the screen. Yeah, I work most weekends, to be honest. Won't do as much. I'll just get up early when everybody's sleeping and do a bit of work. I enjoy it. Oh, would you look at that? We fixed it. There you go. So just go hell to leather and abuse the screen. There you go. Move it about. So that's fixed it. So we'll let this cool down, and I don't need to rub one out now, because that's all working. So we've got two screens now. We've got a backup screen here with some pixel rot, which amazingly worked by rubbing the pixels there. You can see a slight remnants there, but just carrying on rubbing that, I reckon, will completely get rid of it, so I'm quite impressed with that. This is the customer's original. Once this cools down, we should have a fully working screen. So it was that ribbon connection, but I've just done 365 degrees at 40% airspeed, and that's worked. I was about probably an inch away. I went quite aggressive at it at the end. Just do not try this on Game Boy Original. I've done many Game Boy Original trying to fix horizontal lines, and I can tell you for a fact that even though that looks the same, there's like white, the Game Boy Original will literally melt within not even 2 seconds using 300 degrees. I had to go down to like 180 degrees. That's why I started at 180 on these, because I presume they're the same. But yeah, if you're doing Game Boy Original, it will not work at that heat. But it looks like, at least for this one, the Pocket Lite screen, it's handled 306. I keep forgetting. We need to make a note of it. 365 degrees. It's 40% airspeed, 45% airspeed. Yeah, I'll jump on the wiki when I get 5 to... I'll probably just screenshot. Yeah, look, there you go. It's starting to be nice now. Now it's cooling down. And you can see the heat at this end's darker and then fades where it's cooler. So, but these all recover. You can see all the pixels are there. So as this cools down, this side will even out. I'll use this stream, I think, as a screenshot for what we've just done, and kind of hint at the airflow, and I can link to the video on that. But yeah, I'll put this guide on so people can do the backlight mod as well, which is basically removing one. Obviously this isn't the Game Boy Lite, it's in here, but removing one wire and soldering a backlight, and I might start selling the backlights as well. Original GBA to play GB and GBC, but not boot up GBA. There's inside the GBA there is two sections to the CPU. So one section runs the old, is it 65020? I can't remember what the CPU for the GBO is. Like it's a variant of it, but basically inside the GBA CPU there's two cores. One is for GBO games and one's for GBA. So it's either the CPU's dead, the pins are bad on it, or the voltage regulation side of the GBA, which is on the wiki. If you go to retro6.wiki and then Game Boy Advance, then power circuit, some of those voltages might be missing, and it might be missing for the GBA games, the 3.3 volt, but the 5 volts available for the GBO. Can also be RAM. The GBA uses more RAM, so maybe when it's on that. But usually when it boots one and not the other, it's either the switch that we mentioned we were working on a GBA at the start of the stream. There's a physical mechanical switch that gets moved and pressed when you insert a GBO game. If that's stuck in, then it would be stuck in GBA. It's much less likely. It's more likely the other way around, where it'll work for GBA and not for GBO. It doesn't normally go the other way around. But check the cartridge connector as well. Check the CPU, maybe reflow it. Rare cases it can be RAM, but it's more than likely, I'd say, a CPU or power regulator issue, basically. So yeah, there you go, that's fully recovered. You can see we can move it around, no issues. So, nice, I'll put that back in the customers and do the other one. Is anyone interested in me streaming the other one in the morning, or shall I just get it out of the way? And I might work on, I've got tons to work on anyway, might work on something else, but we've had quite a lot of people jump on the stream for the GBA stuff. I think people like Game Boy and Game Boy Color and Game Boy Pocket and all that lot, so yeah, we fixed it after a long while. So I found that I've got a donor Game Boy Lite with a bit of screen rot that we've kind of rubbed out visibly, and I'm sure I can rub out the rest. So this is actually a donor screen with this little bit of black rot that we've got to fix. But after I did that, I've actually managed to fix the customer's original, and it was basically we had to completely dismantle the screen, desolder this. You can see the state of this ribbon now. It's all hard and crusty, but I've reflowed it with hot air, as hot as I dared, and it's finally stuck and adhered. This is like nice and firm now, and it works perfectly fine. So presuming that doesn't break again when we put it back in the console, if not, the customer's still got this screen. So either way, we've got it working for them. I didn't think we were. That was like the last attempt where I honestly presumed it was going to melt, but it actually worked. It was dead, wouldn't boot at all. We placed the power switch, then it would play. Yeah, I'd start with as daft as it sounds, putting the GBA in the dishwasher, give it a full thorough clean, spray it with IPA. If that doesn't work, then put flux around the CPU and RAM, reflow them, and if that fails, probably look at the power regulation circuit. Or it might even be that the regulator's outputting the voltages, but you've got broken traces going to certain parts like the cartridge port or the physical switch. But definitely start with I'd say the dishwasher and then the reflow if that doesn't work. So I think that's it for today. It's Friday night, isn't it? So I'm gonna go and chill for a few hours, I guess, and then I'll get back on it probably 6 in the morning, something like that. I normally work early, unless I wake up in the middle of the night, then I'll be on at probably 2 in the morning. So I'll carry on with the other Game Boy Lite, 'cause I'm not going to finish that tonight. And then I think we've got a PC Engine after that. But it depends how much I do on camera at the weekend. I don't do too much. I'll just probably do the Game Boy Lite, and then I don't know. We'll go from there. But thanks everyone for joining in. I think we had more this time on YouTube than anywhere else, which is normally Facebook's the big one, and Facebook's been the lowest. Twitch is actually growing as well. I've got 0 people on Twitch for like a week and a half. Then I got 1 person, then 2. Now we're up to like 6. So I think you know it's working well and people are enjoying it, and it makes me go a little bit further on the repairs than I normally would as well. But as long as people enjoy it, then I don't mind kind of explaining it as I go. So hope you all have a good weekend, and then like I say, I might see some of you tomorrow. And if not, I'll be smashing some software for a while after this. So what I'm going to try and probably do is do my software business in the mornings, gym in the dinner time-ish, and then streaming. Try to stream almost every day after, just casually just get on with work and stream. So you might see me most days anyway, but I've got quite a lot of software work I've got to catch up on now with being away as well. So yeah, everyone enjoy the weekend, and I'll catch you shortly.